Welcome to the interview on Radio Now 95.3 FM. I am Kayode Ladende. As it stands, Nigerians will go to the next poll with a new electoral act. While the jubilation is ongoing among many stakeholders, there are still contentious issues by some who believe that the president is right by asking that some clauses should be expunged from the electoral act document. Also, we'll be delving into the issue of constitution amendment. What are we to gain as Nigerians? What are the issues? What are the nitty-gritty that we'll be delving into? So we have with me Mr. Femi Falana, a constitutional lawyer and a human rights advocate. Welcome, Mr. Femi Falana. Okay, let's get your reaction, your immediate reaction over the signing of the electoral amendment bill. Whatever you said is still in the public domain. So what do you think now?
Well, I want to believe that due to the pressure from the public, the president signed the electoral amendment bill rather reluctantly, because even in his speech, while signing the bill, the president brought out his objections, which will have been the basis of another letter to the National Assembly. But since the president has eventually signed the bill into law, debates are now ongoing. And the pressure is being given that with the signing of the bill, Nigeria will witness credible elections. I haven't seen the signs. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. The signing of the bill is not enough, for sure. Without the Electoral Offences Commission bill signed into law, impunity will not stop. Already, people have started campaign. They've started campaign from the presidential election.
Which is contrary to the act itself.
Contrary to the act itself, and nothing has changed. Money is already exchanging hands. Gifts are already being distributed all over the place. You guys in the media are not asking any of the aspirants questions. It's all about which section of the country a candidate has come from, or we're asking questions about the age of candidates. It's not about how will you address the problems confronting the country, problems of insecurity, of life and property, bad roads, lack of infrastructural facilities, and so on and so forth. And the place of Nigeria in the Committee of Nations. You should be asking the candidate, how will you solve the electricity crisis? How will you address incessant strikes in the educational and health sectors? How will you attract how will you promote productivity in our country so that the enormous potentials of our country can be realized? We have no business taking loans from everywhere. If we mobilize Nigerians to engage in production.
Mr. Falana, we know what
So for me, these are the issues to address. But once you reduce this business of 2023 to zoning and the like, nothing will change.
Mr. Falana, I know one of those things you've always canvassed is the idea of when the system is sanitized and we throw up right candidates in terms of stopping election rigging, which this act, some people have said that it will achieve, but the fact that there's going to be
it's not going to
electronic transmission of results, and we also have the card reader being, legal now. Don't you think at least is the first step, or maybe
the card reader has always been legal, apart from 2015, when the courts said they were not okay. Since then, we've been using the card readers. Since then, the law hasn't changed. I did say then that having regards to the provisions of the Electoral Act, and particularly the amendment made in March 2015, that INEC was given the opportunity to adopt any method deemed fit to have credible elections in Nigeria. So, but, you know, I think that agreement, I mean, that's idea, that submission, eventually, you know, assisted INEC to continue to use card readers. Yes, transmission of results, that will be okay, you know. But again, unless you can deal with those who may want to sabotage the system, nothing will be achieved. Yeah, nothing will be achieved.
Mr. Falana, let's also look at the one that has caused another debate. I would love to get your opinion on that. The Section 84, subsection 12A, that has to do with government appointees, that they have to resign before they can fight for positions in parties. You know, we understand that the reason behind that is when these men are still, or these women are still in offices, what they do is they become statutory delegates, and they employ a lot of people to them, and they also become delegates, and therefore it affects the process of the primary. How does that actually curb election rigging, at least at the primary stage now?
The president did criticize Section 84, subsection 12 of the new act. I do hope that the president will be persuaded to drop his objections, because there is nothing unconstitutional in that provision. We're talking of appointees of the government who are manning key government positions, using their positions to influence the results of elections. The provision of the law, which is going to put pay to that, which is going to end that, ought to be commended. Under the current constitution, if you are going to contest for any position, you are required to resign 30 days before election. If another provision, because the constitution never envisaged that people were going to use their positions to influence the conduct of primaries to the detriment of democracy. A provision of the law has now taken care of that. Nobody has been banned from contesting election. Nobody has been banned from supporting any candidate. All the law is saying now is that please stop using your official position to influence the conduct of primaries.
Mr. Falana, the presidency...
There's nothing illegal about that.
The president's argument is that this has to do with the congresses and convention, because the provision even says that they can't even vote during their primaries, which, and for the president, he felt they are disenfranchising this set of people.
No, you see, you know, if we're talking of democracy, those who are going to elect people must be elected. So if a governor or if the president appoints 1,000 delegates, and we have seen a governor that has about 5,000 appointees, so all of them are going to vote. Is that democracy? You don't understand?
I do.
I know a governor who once appointed 5,000 advisors and personal assistants. So you are saying all of them will be automatic delegates? Would that be fair to others who are contesting on their own? When somebody already has about 5,000 people to vote for him or her. And I think that is what the law is talking about.
Very clear.
To put everybody on the same level. That's what we call level playing field.
Mr. Falana, please explain this to us, because for those of us who are not in the legal profession, we're a bit confused about the president asking the leadership of the National Assembly to expunge that clause. Does that mean that they will take it back to it?
No. The president has already signed the law.
That's settled.
That is the law today. If the president feels so sufficiently strong about his objection, he will now send a proposed amendment to the National Assembly, and that will be debated. But I can assure you, it's going to be difficult to change that provision because it's in tune with democracy, it's in line with our experience as a people, and it's going to end the official manipulation of primaries by people who believe they are using their incumbency, positions. Yeah, that's the whole essence.
Is that a good place to please give it a thumbs up? The Electoral Act now, the amendment process.
No, for me, I think what the National Assembly has done in that respect is marvelous. It's marvelous. And in any case, why should anybody be complaining? When the law has not said, you cannot appoint more than 12 special advisors. The law has not said you cannot appoint more than 20 special advisors. And some governors have taken advantage of that to have 5,000, 6,000 political appointees. You are now saying all of them should vote in primaries. No, that will not be in line with democratic principles.
Finally, on the Electoral Act, because the second part of this, we'll be talking about the Constitution Amendments process that is ongoing at the National Assembly. Mr. Falana, what do you think about the part that has to do with electronic, which you talked about, the fact that we have electronic transmission of results, but people felt, are we not long overdue for electronic voting? That's what you should be talking about. So how will what
Nigerians, and that's what I'm saying, there is no cause for celebration. What Nigerians demanded was electronic voting. But those who want to sustain the status quo, the ruling party, including the ruling party, do not want us to move to the era of science and technology.
Okay.
If they had added electronic voting, you know what that means. But they still want to continue to rig elections. They want to continue to manipulate the result of elections. And that is why I've emphasized that without the political will to fight official impunity and end the manipulation of elections in Nigeria, we're not going to get it right. I've looked at the law. Nothing really on the management of election petitions. You'll be wasting your time. You'll be wasting huge resources if we are going to continue the current practice. In America, in the United States of America, 62 cases were instigated. 62 cases were filed at the instance of President Donald Trump. Between November and January, before the inauguration of the president on the 20th of January, all the cases
were finalized,
concluded, and taken out of court. But here, you have 6 months to conduct proceedings in the Election Petition Tribunal. From there, you have 60 days in the Court of Appeal. From there, you have 60 days in the Supreme Court. No country does that any longer. Once you have electronic voting, like in Kenya, 14 days, you decide election petitions in 14 days. Because the whole thing is you just collate the figures. It's scientific. So the question of calling thousands of witnesses will not arise. But these guys are not ready for that. And so that is why you must not celebrate. The amendment is not yet to Huru. There's nothing to celebrate.
Okay,
nothing will change.
In case you just joined us, you're listening to Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, telling us his opinion on the issue of the newly signed Electoral Act amendment. This is Radio Now 95.3, and we are having the interview. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the ongoing Constitution Amendment debate at the National Assembly. Please don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're still listening to the interview, and I have with me Mr. Femi Falana, a senior advocate of Nigeria and a famous constitutional lawyer. Let's talk about the idea of putting VAT under exclusive list against the backdrop of what happened in Rivers State, where the Rivers State government, got some kind of judgment in their favor, at least at the first instance. So is this something to look at, or this is also necessary when we are talking about
I think that is going
federalism?
to say, I think it's going to scale through in the sense that majority of the states, majority of the state government will mobilize the houses of assembly and their representatives in Abuja to vote for it. Because apart from Lagos State,
Rivers,
and the Federal Capital Territory, Lagos is about 50% contribution, Abuja is about 70%, I think Rivers is about 5%, Kano about 6%, or thereabout. Majority of the states will be in trouble if you say that VAT should be controlled by state government, should be collected by state governments. That is why majority of the legislators in Abuja and
but what do you think? Is this healthy for us when we are talking about developing our IGR as federating units, when we are talking about restructuring, when we are talking about...
I don't think so. I think we are concentrating too much powers in Abuja, in the center. And what is being said is that states and even local government should be encouraged to generate resources. But right now, the National Assembly is also encouraging what you call bottle federalism. Everybody must go to Abuja, or everybody must go to the center.
Let's see whether we could touch one or two.
But for me, I think the state governments will have to, in alliance with local governments, organize themselves to embark on massive investments. And it's possible. We should have regional economic unions that should function. Take Odua investments. What's going on there? What's going on there? So you must look at, how you can multiply wealth and not how you can promote poverty, which some of these provisions are meant for. They're meant to promote poverty, laziness. So you just go to Abuja every month to collect money, pay salaries, and, that's all. It's not about development. It's not about investing in infrastructural development. It's not about looking outside oil, crude oil. Whereas today, palm oil sells much higher than crude oil in the international market.
Wow.
Cocoa sells much more than crude oil in the international market. The second largest producer of palm oil in the world today, Malaysia, came to the West, came to Nigeria in 1965 to take palm kernel seedlings. Today, we are importing palm oil from Malaysia, shamefully. Nigeria was the leading cocoa producer. We've lost that place to Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana for years. Our state governments are not
Thinking in that direction.
to invest in that area. We're still exporting cocoa beans in 2022. When we should be manufacturing chocolate, and export. So I think these are the problems.
Okay, but maybe one more or two before you go. Another item I think is a bit contentious is the fact that the National Assembly is considering summoning the president and governor when there are emergency issues that they must attend to these lawmakers. Because over time we've seen
I think
even ministers.
I think it's a
even
very
ignore them.
good development if it can scale through. I think it's a very good development.
And you don't foresee the president not signing at the end of the day if that happens?
Ordinarily, the president shouldn't sign
The electoral amendment.
the constitutional amendment. No.
Okay, constitutional amendment.
Yeah. The president shouldn't sign. Because it's not an ordinary act of parliament. It is the amendment of the constitution. So the president cannot veto. Because it's not like a regular one, a bill passed by two branches of the National Assembly. This one, you will require the National Assembly and 24 states,
At least.
houses of assembly of 24 states, to pass the bill into law. It is not provided in the Constitution that the president will sign into law a bill passed by the National Assembly and state legislatures. No, it's not there.
What should be the process?
No, once it is passed, it's automatic. It becomes law. Oh yeah. And if the president insists this time around, if the president insists on signing the bill, it's something that should be challenged. Yeah.
And finally, before we let you go, you touched on it, but I think just to get your clear opinion on it, this idea about race for 2023, are we having the right men and women showing interest? Talking about expression of interest now. I'm not talking about whether they should have started campaigning or not.
Everybody is entitled to dream. And sometimes very, very widely. You can dream, even dangerously. So every Nigerian is entitled to contest election. Every Nigerian is entitled to aspire. Unlike those days when you couldn't be allowed to contest if you were facing a criminal charge. Unlike now, the government that claims to be fighting corruption is interested in having the chairman of the ruling party who may be standing trial in court. The ruling party fighting corruption doesn't care if candidates who are standing trial will contest for the governorship election or presidential election. No. In those days, you will have to go and sort out yourself so that you don't embarrass the party and the government. But many of the people who are contesting election are either being investigated by the anti-graft agencies in Nigeria or abroad. Some of them are even facing trial in court. But as I said, we must go beyond the aspirants. We must put on the table issues to address. We must make the campaign issue-based.
Issue-based.
We must ask questions about taxation, about VAT, about agriculture, about the state of our roads, about medical facilities. Will you be going abroad to treat yourself if you become the president of Nigeria? Unless you ask these questions.
You allow your children to go to our universities.
Unless you ask these questions, you are deceiving yourself. Right now, we have over 5,000 students in Ukraine. The government of Nigeria doesn't have the facilities to bring them home. Hence, the House of Reps is begging Airpeace Airline, please, can you help us? You can't reduce Nigeria to a beggar nation every time. You are begging for vaccines. You are begging for spaces in airlines. What are you not begging for? You are begging for loans. So these are the issues to put
on the front burner.
In the front burner, so that those who are contesting election, so that we can engage in elimination series, so that we know those who are prepared for this job, and we know those who on their own will be convinced that I'm not ready yet.
Thank you so much, Mr. Femi Falana, for your time. It's been a wonderful time, and trust me, quite a lot of issues have been cleared by your learned self. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
And this is how far we can go on the interview. I've been speaking with Mr. Femi Falana, a senior advocate of Nigeria and a constitutional lawyer. Until next week, when we have a fresh edition of the interview, I am Kayode Ladende, saying bye for now.